Can't we just fuck the whole goddamn war? The war is over. Says who? Brooklyn 4-5 is a Shudder original, written and directed by Ted G. Hoggan. I hope I pronounced that name correctly. If not, I do apologize. He wrote such movies as We Are Still Here, Mohawk, two of which I need to check out. I've heard very good things. Check out his IMDb page for the full listing. And when I checked out his IMDb page, I found that he wrote Satanic Panic. I had a lot of fun watching Satanic Panic. As out there as it was weird as it was fun. It was just really, really fun. Horrifyingly fun. I just had a lot of fun watching it. And this takes place in the immediate aftermath of World War II, specifically 2 days after Christmas in 1945, where there is Hawk. That is H-O-C-K, not Hawk. Well, and yes, I had to get an over-the-top reference in there. Basically, he is dealing with the loss of his wife around the holidays, and he says to his 4 other friends that are vets, lifelong friends, please come here and help me through this. Then he wants to hold a seance to speak to his deceased wife. Let's just say that doesn't go well, and then things get worse. And from there, we have a horror movie that basically takes place in one location. It's like a stage play, but with a cast like this, and with good writing, and good cinematography, and actually just generally a sense of understanding how the horror of war can haunt people, and how some people that seem like they did great things actually didn't, and that everybody's got flaws and skeletons in their closet. Whew, we've got a movie that certainly will fuck some people up, but in a good way, and this is one of the best Shudder originals I've seen in years. This was fantastic. I had a lot of fun watching this. I'll talk about why in due course. I do want to say Anne Ramsey, Ron E. Raines, not Claude Rains, because they're entirely different people. Jeremy Holm, Larry Fessenden, and also Ezra Buzzington. That sounds like the name of an astronaut. They're all good, and they're the central characters here. And we have DeFranco, Ezra, who basically is very, very driven. He still is so patriotic, military-focused, all of that. F the Krauts, all that, because, World War II. Allied forces beat the Germans, but still got that crowd talk in our head. And then you have a few other characters, ones that I'll reveal things about in the spoiler section. But Maria, and Ron's, and Bob, played by Ron, they're married. And then we find out some more things about these characters. We're like, oh, they're really, really fucked up. So one interesting fact about this, according to IMDb, is Ted worked with his dad on the screenplay, basically getting his, his stories from being, in the U.S. Air Force. And he also was a U.S. history teacher, and he also ended up being a quadriplegic. Thank the man for his service. He recently did pass on a few years prior. It was just great that he was able to work with his son on this, and you can tell this is a labor of love by Ted. And while I admit that this movie is not absolutely perfect, there are some cliches and some flaws. You're going to get that almost in any horror movie. I mean, there are very few perfect horror movies, but it's a labor of love. And I would say 95% of this goddamn movie is good to great, and I would go more with great, because I had a great time watching this. It made me squirm at some point, because it was less about what you saw and more about what you heard, because your imagination was coming up with all kinds of things like, shit, how did this actually happen? And you do see some visual effect points, but it makes you wait for those. It makes you wait for that, and you just see the pain on these people's faces, all the shit that they did, stuff that they thought was good, that wasn't, stuff that they've tried to hide, that gets revealed as things go on, and then another character gets introduced that advances the plot along, and this is good. This is really, really good. Great, in fact. One of my favorite films of the year. I look forward to seeing what else Ted can do behind the camera, and Shudder has been knocking it out of the park with some originals lately. I can't say everything's been great, but I'm glad they scooped this up. This was really, really good. I highly recommend you guys check this out. The acting, basically it's really good. Really, really good. All these people have been in good stuff before, and they brought their A game here. They didn't, they treated this material seriously. You could tell that there was a lot of passion put into this project. And again, even with the cliches and even with the flaws, it was very, very good. Stage play as far in a horror setting. I mean, you really can't ask for more than that. So, and war is hell. That's a big thing that gets driven home. And some of the things that get revealed about people, like, okay, sure, maybe we should have seen that coming, but it's the way they tell the story. It's really, really, ooh, so exciting. So yeah, I highly recommend you guys check this out. Shudder did a great job, scooping this up. And Ted, I want to see what else Ted can do as far as a director. I look forward to more stuff from him. Great cast, very well earned special effects and scares, and oh boy, it gets really, really freaky when a certain thing happens heading into the second act, and then it just gets really bonkers in the third act, but in a way that I guess sort of makes sense, because you have to wonder if it's all in their head, or you have to wonder if this shit's actually happening. Maybe it's the shit that they did that's coming back to haunt them. So I'm going to get into spoilers just so you know. That's your warning right there. But good stuff. Highly recommend you guys check it out. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. Okay, so everybody arrives to help out Hawk. Yeah, he lost his wife on Thanksgiving. She had slit her wrist, and basically it's because nobody would believe her. She thought the German neighbors that owned a grocery shop, and then a girl that is later introduced as Hildy, is, like, oh, they're spying for the German party. But we find out as things go on how paranoia can drive people to absolutely the brink of insanity. Now, Hawk didn't believe her, but then after she ended her life, he's telling them all this while they're gathering. He basically says he went to church, but then the pastor was like, oh, your wife took her own life. She's going to hell. We'll screw this. I'm going to hold a seance. So I want you guys to hold my hand, or let's all hold hands, and we can't break the circle. Let's have this seance, and if we break the circle, the door will remain open. That's important to remember. He has no faith left, so why not try this? Well, Hawk gets a bit obsessive, keeps trying to contact his wife Susie, and then people get aggressive, maybe don't, encourage the ghosts and try to like get angry with them, maybe don't do that. So he barfs up something at one point. This is after we get, Susie's voice in a mirror in the table. We get a closet door banging open, or banging that kind of stuff, but it won't open because it's locked. And then this necklace that Susie's points out like this, and turns flat, gets all the candles activated, and then he barfs us some ectoplasm of sorts that turns into the form of Susie's ghost hand. He tries to reach out, and oh no, broke the circle. He broke his own rule, and now the door is not closed, and they don't realize this until it's too late. Basically, Hawk wants them to stay in there until they figure out what's going on. And then he decides, hey, wait a second. I need to do something for myself. And Major DeFranco, I need you to do something. I need you to take care of something, and I still want you to do it. Oh, and then Hawk shoots himself. So then his body's just, a hole in his head, Chris Von Erich style, is just laying there on the goddamn deal. And now they're locked in. They can't even take this old-timey key and get out. They can't even get out. They're locked in. Either in a room because they need to do something, confess their sins, or because it's another dimension. And Hildy, the German blonde, let's see, Christina Klepp, who's beautiful. Good God, she's beautiful. I need to see her in more stuff. She's German. Her family moved to New York in 1931. And from there, we have a bunch of confessions about stuff that people did. You have Archie, Jeremy Holm, who ends up confessing that, well, one, he's gay. Nothing wrong with Paul. I could only imagine how tough that would have been, in the 1940s. But he also confesses that he blew up something with a bunch of Nazi spies. No, it was a kindergarten center. It was a shelter. A bunch of German children that were perfectly innocent got destroyed. DeFranco's a bit too patriotic. Gets very obsessive with the fact that we need to kill the Kraut. And yeah. Hawk basically brought DeFranco over because he said, she's the one that caused all this. This family caused this. Even though I didn't believe my wife at first, she must have been right. Because he's clearly nuts. That's why he shot himself in the goddamn head. Just saying. Help is out there. That's never the answer. But, yeesh. Hawk didn't want to kill her. He regaled with a whole bunch of stuff that he did in the war, but actually he was squeamish about blood, so he'd always send other people to do his dirty work. And then Hildy talks about the American dream. We get some gay slurs thrown around in Archie's direction. And to talk about Archie murdering a whole bunch of German kids. And war is hell and all this stuff, and they're trapped in that room. So Hildy gets interrogated by Ramsey, who's an interrogator. That's usually how that goddamn works. And if she doesn't answer the question, no matter how many times she jams a pin into her knee, into her finger, or under her fingers, a bit rough. That was rough. So she's not a Nazi. She doesn't believe she's a Nazi. That was rough. And then Paul is still too patriotic and too wrapped up in the whole war thing and doesn't believe. But he's like, fine, we'll leave. So he has this old-timey key to get out, and, well, the key gets absorbed right into the goddamn door. They are clearly trapped in another dimension. And then Clive, Hawk, comes back and says, kill her. You know, you need to do something. Kill her. That's what he brought DeFranco there for. So they didn't finish the seance. Now they tried to finish it and close the goddamn door. Maybe don't, get to where you're panicking and turning on your own friends. Susie's ghost accuses Hildy of, breaking into her house and killing her. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. I mean, it's hard to tell. I'm saying it's hard to tell because that ghost could have believed it. Or maybe Hildy really did do that because she was tired of being accused of being what Susie ended up accusing her of being. That's where it gets a little bit weird. Because it's left open to some interpretation. And then we have Bob, who's the meek type, who basically says, okay, let's just do something about this. They're trying to break out. They're not breaking out. Bob ends up grabbing the gun and says to Paul, you're going to let us out. Well, then he shoots him with the gun, obviously, not shooting him with a pocket watch. That would be hard, unless it's a really, really hard-thrown pocket watch. Takes off the fingers and then shoots Paul in the head. But then, all this time, Hawk's corpse is saying, kill her, so he shoots Hildy in the head, and then the door opens. Now, it's possible that she was just as guilty, but now they have all this stuff that they need to confess. Especially Archie. He has to go confess to the board, that basically he did what he did. Maria's pissed, and I don't blame her. She's pissed at her husband. Yeah, war is hell. War is hell, and it proves that nobody's innocent. Good God. What a depressing ending. What a fitting ending, given all the stuff that they did, but whew. So, yeah, that's where, can't we just fuck the whole goddamn war and all that? The war is over, says who, and then that's it. A labor of love, definitely, and even with its flaws, I got to give it an A+. Good job, Ted. Good job. You did like my opinion as far as a horror movie fan matters. Just as somebody that was entertained but also horrified by this, like, whew. It's bleak, but it's good. A+. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rethlin. I'll see you soon.